Hey guys. In the default world, I go by Griff Green. Griff Green. I was the community manager for Slockit and helped build up the DAO. I also have a master's degree in digital currencies and have devoted my life to decentralization for the last 4 years. Pretty much ever since I've found out about Bitcoin, I've been interested in it. I used to be a big gold bug, and I always kept my money out of fiat currency. I just never really trusted the fiat, trusted the decree. I don't really, this idea that money has to be decreed by government is a story that we have. I'm sorry, so I just want to go into, I'm more interested in ideas. I have lots of great stories, so many adventures, right? White hat group hacks and all these things, and we can go in it over Q&A. I just want to give like a 10, 15, like, a thought exercise on what the hell is money? What is this stuff? You know, I really think that we are controlled by stories. Our whole world is written by stories. We don't have, this is how humans work. Stories are what help us understand this reality. But some stories have value in our world and some stories don't. Money is another story. Money is not a natural object in any way. It's a very abstract concept. And you can tell this when you relate it to other actual natural objects, like mangoes. Mangoes are great. I fucking love mangoes, right? And I know, right? They're so good. And mangoes have a quality to them. Some mangoes are incredibly delicious, and some are rotting on the ground. If you have a mango farm, you care about the quality. You're not going to sell every mango you grow. Some of them are better than others, and you're probably going to throw away some of them just so you have a high quality situation. If you had a money farm, right, you're not going to throw away some of the dollars. To me, this is the most obvious point of abstraction that you can see, where there is no quality to a dollar, to a US dollar. Obviously, there's a quality to the Australian dollar or the US dollar, but to the US dollar, there's this idea of fungibility, which means every dollar is the same. And that itself is, we could debate this a little bit, but in general, this is the idea, right? If someone steals a bunch of money and uses it to buy a car, then the person who they bought the car from gets to keep the money. But in our legal world, if someone steals a car and then sells it for money, right, the court will then steal that car from the person who bought it legally and give it back to the person who originally owned it. That's because in the natural world with real objects, you have a quality. There is a uniqueness. Every object has its own special identity. Money is an abstract concept. It's a tool that we've used. It's a story that we've created so that we can better access indirect exchange, so that we can better interact with each other. So I don't have to trade chickens for goats, right? It's got us really far. We're kicking ass with money. Really, it's brought our societies forward. I mean, none of this could have happened without money. You know, the ability to indirectly exchange with people is really powerful. But I think we've reached our limit with this story. There's parts of the story that aren't helping the world, right? One of the big ones is this artificial scarcity concept. Money is one of the only things in the world that you can't have too much of. If you have too many mangoes, that's a problem. Like, you have too many mangoes, what are you going to do with them? They're rotting, they're smelling. You know, it's like, oh my god, I'm covered in mango juice all the time. Have you ever had a mango rash? Holy god, that stuff is dangerous, okay? Like, people go to the hospital. With money, you get $1 billion, you're like, this is a responsibility. I better use this to make more money. You can't have too much money, you know? And that's a disease. In my opinion, that's a flaw in the way we structure money. And what we're doing here at Decentral, we're talking about cryptocurrencies a lot, and it's a little dangerous because of the decommodification principles here. You know, we're walking a fine line here, and it's a fun game. And I feel kind of bad sometimes talking about Bitcoin, or especially when it goes to the price or anything you have to buy, because we're trying to get out of that, right? But I think cryptocurrencies has a really strong foothold in Burning Man, because Burning Man is an incredible experiment on a new way to create a new kind of culture around money, a new culture for indirect exchange, the gift economy, right? Where people are paying it forward, basically. You give without expectation. And then, but there is a small expectation that you think they're going to probably give to other people too, you know, and that's what makes this whole thing work, right? Because everyone's providing a service, and this is a new type of economy, and it's an experimental economy, and it's fucking glorious. I love it so much. I can't stop it. I came here 7 years ago, and I just, like, the more time I can spend here, the better, right? But that's why I love cryptocurrencies too, because there's constant experimentation going on in the economies. I'm a big libertarian guy, you know, I love Ludwig von Mises and Austrian economics and all these concepts, but they're really missing the heart. They're missing the soul, you know, about like really human interaction. You know, there's human action and why do humans act, but then there's human interaction and how do we want to model our new economy? Now, I don't have the right answers, or of course, I have no idea. I have no idea what we're going to go for. But I believe that if we keep experimenting with cryptocurrencies and we start building proper models around what we want to create, a new type of economy, we can build something amazing. And I'm going to put it out there that I hope that we can start modeling human actions that are derived from love. Especially, my favorite relationship to model after is mother and child. Why does a mother feed a child? You know, what drives that human action? You know, it's not money, right? There's something else there. And I believe that we can fit, and it's very close to this, you know, to the culture that we have here. Just giving without expectation. You know, the mother has no expectation of return, usually, right? So I think if we can figure out and do some experimentation with that, we can actually start modeling some of these ideas with currencies. And maybe not currencies, maybe a token is a better way to model it. For instance, I'm creating tokens right now for charity, and I'll talk about my decentralized charity project later. But the tokens have no value. They have no monetary value. They have governance value. They help people decide how their donations should be spent, and they help connect people so that they can build communities around causes. And there are lots of things to do with cryptocurrencies and this new technology that are just like, we're just on the tip of the iceberg. We're just starting this adventure. And I know that I'm really excited to promote stuff here at the Burn, because I really think you guys, the crypto people who are excited, you know, the burner culture, we need you in this world. We need you in our crypto adventure, you know, because you guys have this perspective that we have about 50 decentralites here. Most of them have never been to Burning Man before. We tried really hard to get important figures in the cryptocurrency world to experience this so that they can see what we're doing. And I hope one day we can model some kind of decentralized token or decentralized community that can model some of this, you know? Anyway, this was my unprepared rant, and I would love to do Q&A. Steve is here! Yeah! Where is Steve? Oh, Steve, come back in the door.
He walked from the airport.
Okay.
He's here, I promise.
Well, that's cool. We can move him into the 3 o'clock slot or whatever we want to do. Okay, so Q&A. I know you had one. Oh, look.
First of all, you're getting like emotional. I really appreciate that about that. So thank you for that. That's like you're putting yourself out there. I wonder what would you say to those that might say that there's a privilege to be able to kind of look beyond the fungibility of money and to say that there's a privilege to go beyond that when you know, when there are folks living hand to mouth, paycheck, they don't have the ability to think about those broader concepts.
Yeah, it's really tough. You know, what is it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can't, if you are at a certain level, you don't have time to reach to self-actualization, you know, much less just like build relationships and security. It is a privilege. But what I really love about cryptocurrencies and in technology in general is that as the people that do have the privilege start developing these things and the ideas spread, I don't even want to start talking about IP law, but But as these ideas spread, they raise the standard of living. If you go to the Philippines, I went to the Philippines in like 2012, a long time ago, everyone had a cell phone. Everyone. And that took privilege. People building cell phones, you know, that took a lot of privilege, but this allowed some random person who's taking a jeepney, you know, for 7 cents to go into work, you know, to communicate with their family that they're going to stay late. And that's really powerful, and it costs them less than a penny to do that. We have a responsibility with this privilege. I don't think that everyone should get involved with everything at all. This is the magic, right? Division of labor. And the people that can have the time and have the excitement, you know, that are motivated to advance this technology, they should, I don't want to say they have a responsibility, but in a way, something like that. You know, they have the opportunity to do that. So
they also have, so one of the things that we say about Bitcoin or blockchain technologies is most of you have, you know, a credit card in a piece of plastic in your pocket that you can go buy whatever you want, whenever you want. You have pieces of paper currency that everyone else in the world wants more of, right? And you're not probably clipping coupons. So, but this technology is not for you right now. It's for the rest of the world, the 3-4 billion people on the planet that don't have any sort of financial interaction with the ability of financial or governance structures. So this technology is to leapfrog the older brick and mortar institutions that you would normally have in the developing world, and then be able to have, you know, decentralized communities that can produce for themselves, whether it's vertical farming or 3D printing or decentralized banking or energy production. So those allow for those people to have that privilege then very, very quickly.
I appreciate. I just appreciate hearing that perspective, given that I think we get really inundated with, you know, like you said, the value of Ether or Bitcoin, and it's so easy to meet the bros that are like, you know, talking about day trading, and I get so sick of it because I'm so excited about the technology and what it can do, and so thank you for that perspective. I will.
Yeah, I don't know Maslow or any of that shit. I heard it before, but I just wanted to offer a different perspective that communities that are on the front lines are actually much more invested and actually have to take this on at the front because people are dying every day because of poverty. So I'm curious if you could do like a little overview of decentralization as you see it, and so if there are ways to achieve it without computers or cell phones, like is there a way to create like a low-tech kind of approach to it? So that's two parts. Just quickly, decentralization, and how do you do it without computers and cell phones?
sure, just turn off the mic. We're getting feedback. Yeah, so it's tough. So overview of decentralization, that's just, to me, decentralization is everyone's going to have their own definition. All I care about is there's no central points of failure. That's it. That's decentralization. If you can find a system where you can remove one part and the whole thing falls, then it's centralized. And decentralization creates unstoppable communities and voluntary communities. There are examples of Wikipedia is a little tech, but it's pretty decentralized. There's centralized servers, but the content generation there is very decentralized. As far as low-tech decentralization opportunities, I mean, there's been, militias in fact, Switzerland has a militia army, and that's how they do their security. I think I use that as an example because that's always one of the things that, like, oh no, we need a centralized authority to manage national security, right? You can have, if you empower the individual, you can have a centralized solution. Or you can have a decentralized solution for a centralized problem. So there are lots of low-tech opportunities, but honestly, why would you handicap yourself? I don't understand. You know, it's like I don't want to build a house with a hammer. You know, like, well, why not use the hammer? I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, some people don't like using technology, and that's important. Some people can't get off of it. Okay, so like, let the people who can't get off of it, you know, let them work on it and stay in their room and pale skin and just start, you know, they hunch over, and that's great. But guess what? They're revolutionary too. and you can incorporate them into your movement. Be more, I think that bringing in the inclusivity, radical inclusion to these developers that I know in Spain right now, like my really good friend Jordi Balina, he's a major part of the Catalonian independence movement, and he is basically like, you know, kind of their CTO, for lack of a better word. But the people on the front lines, they don't know what's going on in the background. They don't know how the databases are managed. They don't exactly understand how the voting systems work that they built themselves, you know, without the Spanish government. They have to build their own independent system. They're on the front line marching on the streets, and that's important. And you need all of these people to do it. And losing out on an incredible tool like cryptocurrencies or, you know, just in general technology is a handicap.
Steve is here.
Steve!
There he is.
Here, you want an intro?